At that time, it was hard to imagine Venezuela without Hugo Chavez. For the past 14 years, he had been the face of the country, a leader whose vision drove its national identity. Countries like Cuba are rethinking the way it does business. President Raúl Castro started leasing state-owned land to private farmers, clearing the way for the opening of small businesses. It is part of a step-by-step approach to move Cuba away from the old Soviet-style centralized economy. But as our correspondent in Cuba, Michael Voss, reported, more change in one sector of the economy brings more pressure for changes elsewhere.
This makeshift fruit and vegetable market in a dusty parking lot on the outskirts of Havana is the first wholesale outlet in Cuba not owned and run by the state. The market started as an illegal gathering. Now it's tolerated but tightly regulated. Almost all of the distribution and wholesale operations in Cuba continue to be controlled by large state-run monopolies, which so far none of the private businesses have access to. This is the first time that local private restaurants, as well as these self-employed street vendors, can buy in bulk. Now there's pressure to let other new businesses do the same. Cuba has a total workforce of 5 million people. In 2010, just 150,000 were registered as self-employed. Today, that's jumped to 430,000, according to the Ministry of Labor. Many, like Delvis Legro, who've opened closed stalls, have to rely on a growing army of Cubans who can now freely travel abroad and return with bags bulging with merchandise. The government acknowledges that private businesses do need access to wholesale markets, but letting go of state monopolies is proving difficult. According to the Minister of Economics, Marino Murillo, they still haven't fully worked out how best to do it.
We're making progress in developing self-employed workers. Among the most pressing measures is establishing wholesale markets, so the self-employed can purchase their products. It is still a work in progress.
Shortly after Fidel Castro came to power, he started nationalizing all of the major farms, banks and industries, many of them American-owned. It's what prompted the US trade embargo, which continues to this day. Later, as Cuba became ever closer to the Soviet Union, all remaining businesses on the island were taken over by the state, right down to shoeshine boys and street vendors. It's this second phase of nationalizations which the government now concedes was a mistake.
We have learned over the years that the state cannot rule the economy. There is room for others. In the process of updating the Cuban system, we are open to non-state formulas.
The latest change involves converting small-scale enterprises into private workers' cooperatives. Businesses like this produce market in the nearby province of Artemisas. In the past, this market only sold what the state provided and at fixed prices. Now, as a cooperative, it can buy from whoever it wants. Frank Fernandez sold everything directly to the state at fixed prices. Now he's having to deal with new concepts like quality, supply, and demand.
Prices depend on the quantity of produce and the season. Supply and demand regulate the prices. We bargain over prices with customers, and if I don't get what I want, I will find another way to sell. It's the same for them.
Back at the market, customers can now buy a much wider range of produce, including for the first time staples like beans and rice. There are just over 100 similar pilot projects, ranging from construction to catering and transport cooperatives. If successful, others will be rolled out across the country next year.